Hey everyone, it's Pooh. Doing something a little unusual tonight. Trying to make this video from my bed because, I got home this afternoon and had the chills. And I know people don't really recommend that you do this when you have the chills. They just recommend that you cover up more. But for me, a hot bath has always worked, and it's gotten me regulated. Well, in the process of setting my fat ass down in the tub, my hand slipped off the side of the tub and I landed on my rib cage. So, kind of immobilized right now, and I just getting in and out of bed right now is kind of a hassle. And I think just moving around at the desktop would not be the greatest of ideas. So, but before I did all this shit to myself, oh Jesus, man, even coughing and laughing, oh man, um, I saw this today. There was one above it where there was actually a couple above this Wayne Schneider's tweet rather, where one person had talked about how the Democrats, historically speaking, well, shit, I think even contemporaneously speaking, have always, been against blacks and were the party of the KKK and slavery, and I'm adding this in, the party of segregation. Well, and then the guy thought he was being wise by saying conservative Republicans. I think the guy previously said Democrat conservatives. And then he said Republican conservatives. There, I fixed it for you. And, I just had a reply. It's like, when are you morons going to learn that Democrat conservatism and Republican conservatism are not the same things? The Republicans have a different platform than what the Democrats have or did even then. I mean, for fuck's sakes, the Republican Party was formed to end slavery. Or at least that's one reason, anyway. There's multiple reasons. Well, anyway, this guy here, Wayne Schneider, says conservatives ignore the ideological shift in the two major parties. They think the GOP has always been conservative and the Dems always liberal. Not so. Conservative Dems founded the KKK, and conservatives in general fought against CRA, Civil Rights Amendment, and the VRA Voting Rights Amendment. They also supported King George III. What the fuck? Well, maybe he's talking about the Dems, but the Democratic Party wasn't founded until after we'd won our independence from England. I don't know what the fuck this guy is on about. And again, with him, Republican conservatism and Democrat conservatism are not the same thing. So as you can see here, I asked him if he could prove this because, I mean, generally I was interested in learning what he knows. And then this guy comes in behind him. Look up Dixie-crats. They were Southern Dems who became what we now know as the GOP. To which I asked, can you name two of them? Then I asked him if he could name two Dixie-crats that flipped Republican. And, basically screen capped that and came up with this here. This is what they do. They make these claims having never done the research themselves and keep parroting the same bullshit. However, I have done the research and can't name two Dixie-crats that flipped Republican. Let me add that in there. Because only one did, and that one that did was Strom Thurmond. Now, the Dixie-crats had their founding, I think, back in the 1940s. But by this time, and I think even Strom Thurmond was part of them then. Strom Thurmond died a very old man, just about 100, if not right at 100. And now, somebody that I was having this kind of argument with insisted that Southern Democrats flipped Republican. Yes, but the thing of it is, and I'm glad this. I know Wikipedia is not the where you really want to go for sourcing, but it does seem to work in a pinch. But excuse me, I've since I'm gasping air right now, I'm a little gassy, so I do apologize. Um, anyway, and this person, as I was saying, was kind enough to send me a Wikipedia link that listed all the Southern Democrats that flipped Republican. Now, they think that the Southern strategy was some Nixon campaign thing that got Republicans to, or got Democrats to switch Republican. And, these Southern Democrats apparently brought their racism with them. Well, this guy apparently didn't read the list. I mean, he just looked at the names and said, okay, well, here's 60 something Southern Democrats that flipped Republican. Now, I can't remember who this quote came from, but there was a Republican from the South who had said that the Democrats at the time who were flipping Republican understood that the Democrat Party was beginning to they were being really conservative by not wanting to change with the times, and some of these Southern Democrats decided, well, we're going to flip Republican because we don't believe in this racist bullshit anymore. And the thing is that Democrats, even then, and I would say even now, are actually quite conservative. They just it's just conservative with a small c, not a big C. And I may explain what I mean by that here, but I'm just trying to go on. So real quick, what I meant to say earlier was that this isn't supposed to be a full blown video on the Southern strategy and the myth about it, and the platform's changing. It may turn into that. I stated a year ago that I wanted to do a more thoroughly documented video on the Southern strategy, in an attempt to debunk the myth about it all, and how the party switched platforms. But finding that information is really difficult. You'll find more information about the Southern strategy actually being a switching of the party, so to speak. So a lot of people have written about that, and not very many people have written about the myth of it all, because there are some empirical things that you can see that just don't seem to be logical by this reasoning. Anyway, so I went and started looking up names on this wiki list that showed all these Democrats who had flipped Republican. And now I didn't do it with all of them. I did it with about three on the list, and just because time constraints. But the three that I looked at on their wiki pages had no history of racism or segregationism. So, just like, okay, well, then, if we have a Democrat flipping a Republican who isn't a racist, how is that turning the Republican Party racist? Again, guys, there was about 60 something of them, and I don't know which ones had any racist leanings that switched over Republican. But here's the logical fallacy of it. Well, it may not be a fallacy, but this just doesn't add up. For the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the South was still a Democrat stronghold, and even through the mid '90s. It wasn't until '94 that the Republicans managed to gain control of both houses of or both chambers of Congress. So let me see. I think I had something to say about it. Anyway, yeah, I did have some other things. I mean the Reagan actually. Okay, so actually even before Reagan, there was one other president before Dwight D. Eisenhower that managed to carry a few states in the South, but Eisenhower managed to carry a few states in the South as a Republican. Ronald Reagan came along. I don't recall if he carried them all, but I do believe at the very least he carried most of the southern states. And that was kind of the thing with the South, is that they were starting to vote Republican. Not always. I mean, Jimmy Carter, for fuck's sakes, pretty much carried the South, as did Bill Clinton, except for Texas. Bill Clinton did not carry Texas. And I think that's when the Democrats understood that, Texas wasn't one of theirs anymore. But the thing of it is, Reagan carried the most of the South to win his presidency both times. I mean, Jesus Christ, especially that second time, he was running against Walter Mondale. Walter Mondale managed to carry his home state of Minnesota and Washington D.C. You want to talk about a fucking landslide? Man, it was crazy. I was about 12 when that was going on. Oh, Jesus. I'm trying not to be a drama queen about it, but Jesus. All right, so anyway, I continued this on. Yes, Southern Dems flipped to Republicans, but they could never name which of those Southern Dems were racist. And I meant to say, no, I'm sorry. No, I meant what I'm saying here. They can't identify which ones were racist. And to the point of the quote unquote switch happening in the 60s and 70s, why did the South wait 2 to 3 decades to become a Republican stronghold? Yeah, I mean, since the mid 90s, it's been a Republican stronghold. Let me get to my edit here. Despite your bigotry of the South, and a lot of Northerners are very bigoted towards the South, the South doesn't move that slow. Yeah, and I've been working Twitter from my phone all day today, and I've been getting a lot of fucking errors. So, of course, nobody has answered, especially these guys. Wayne nor Ron have answered the question. I think I tried to engage Wayne a couple of more times. Let me see here. Oh, shit, I'm doing the photo. I'm trying to click on his link on the photo. Damn it. Let me see here. Have to go back down the other way. Here we go. So yeah, I've attempted to engage him, and he just doesn't respond. He liked Ron's response, but he wouldn't answer. If he could name 2 Dixie-crats that flipped. And again, the reason why they can't name 2 is because only one did. One of these days, I've said this before. I really do want to do a more in-depth video on this, but Ben Shapiro's got a great video on the Southern Strategy myth. I believe you can just do a YouTube search on it and get a better idea. He actually sorts somebody. PragerU has a great video on the Southern Strategy. My problem that I've realized it before, but really said something to them today, which is probably going to be ignored, is that, I love PragerU's content, but they never source where they get their material from. Never. And because they don't, it's kind of hard to cite that when you're making an argument against somebody who has an argument in the opposite direction. Yeah, I get it. It's not their responsibility, but even though you're not a fully accredited university, if you're going to call yourself PragerU, as in Prager University, it might be helpful since you're trying to educate people to let them know where your citation is coming from. Ugh, jeez, oh man. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it here. Just want to talk about this because it's been on my mind all day, and I meant to get to it earlier, but ever since I jacked up my rib, I've just kind of been trying to sleep and stay immobile. And yeah, it's gonna be real fun getting up and out of bed over the evening because well, you got to do things over the night. I wish I had some drugs to take that would let me sleep through the night. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you like this video, feel free to give a sub. If Feel free to share it and give it a thumbs up, or if you think it's a shit video, don't do any of that.